Good afternoon, students and parents. Thank you for attending this important discussion around the fall of 2020. My name is Mark Young, Director of Admissions and Recruitment at UW-Stevens Point. I'm serving as today's moderator for the next hour. You will hear from our UWSP leadership team and how our university is navigating coming back to campus this fall. We are working to preserve our university's mission and are excited to answer the questions that you've submitted today. If you would like to submit a question during this discussion, please use the URL that is located on my Zoom background, and you will find a live question button. Questions that are similar in nature will be combined so that we are able to address as many questions as possible this evening. Personal questions will be addressed offline after the session is complete. We hope to answer as many questions as possible during this session. Please be mindful that we may not have all the answers to your questions, but we are sure working on that in the coming weeks. I would like to introduce today's panel, which consists of the following members of our leadership team: Chancellor Bernie Patterson, Provost and Vice Chancellor of Academic Affairs, Greg Summers, Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs, Al Thompson, Dean of University College, Gretel Stock, Financial Aid and Scholarship Director, Mandy Slowinski, Director of Residential Living, Brian Foss, and Director of Health Services, Dr. Helen Luce. At this time, I'll turn it over to Chancellor Patterson to give a welcome.
Thank you, Mark. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for gathering today to talk about the university and to talk about your future. Students, many of you graduated from high school just last month, and I know that there was a huge disappointment when graduation ceremonies were canceled, celebrations were canceled, or had to be modified significantly. It was not a happy time. At the university, we had to postpone commencement ceremony. Beginning of the fall semester and commencement in the spring are my two favorite times of the year. And I knew our students pretty well, and I knew that many of them would be gathering around campus on commencement day with their caps and gowns, most likely, with their families, taking pictures in front of Old Main and in front of Burrard Gateway. So I grabbed my own cap and gown and I went to campus, and sure enough, there they were, one family after the other. But it was so great to talk to the students and to meet their families. We were very careful to keep our social distancing. We didn't shake hands, but it was so wonderful to see our students walking around campus that bright sunny day. As I met with each one of them, I surprised them with mom and dad's video cameras running, conferred their degree. And they were beaming from ear to ear, mom and dad particularly. It was probably the smallest graduation ceremony I've ever participated in, but it was one of the most meaningful experiences in my career. But students, know this is a promise, that when you graduate from UW-Stevens Point in 4 years, yes, parents, everybody's on the 4-year plan at that point. When you graduate in 4 years, I promise you a celebration you will not forget. We do graduations very well. We work hard at it, we plan it for months, and it will be a time to celebrate. I promise you that. The pandemic has caused many changes beyond commencement ceremonies. It's also provided an opportunity for us to infuse in our classes across the university the skills and the attributes of dealing with adversity, firsthand, real life, learning how to innovate, solving problems, learning how to persevere and not give up, learning to work in groups, and learning to work alone. Students, these are skills that will serve you for a lifetime. Sounds like liberal arts education, doesn't it? But if you come to Point, expect to be engaged. We have over 200 student organizations. Our Student Government Association is the best in the UW system. They've got the awards to prove it. And they manage over $2.3 million every year. There will be opportunities to be involved in research and in creative activities. So if you're coming here to hide in your room, you're going to find that difficult to do. Our university has responded to the pandemic in dynamic ways. Like every other university and college in the country back in March, our teaching shifted to online learning. But it was so much more than that. Our chemistry department, for example, is making hand sanitizer. And our facility services department is manufacturing face shields for Marshville Clinic. Our custodian crews have been readying residence halls to house healthcare workers if that was needed. Fortunately, so far in central Wisconsin, that has not been needed. And last month, we held a Pointer Day of Sewing. Who would have thought? Our Alumni Affairs Office and pointers from across 4 states gathered together virtually and produced over 1,000 face coverings for frontline workers. And if we only had more time this afternoon, I would love to play for you a video that you can find on our webpage. It's the UWSP combined choir of faculty, staff, students, alumni, and community members performing The Road Home. I really would suggest that you find that link and watch that 2.5 minute video. And lastly, let me introduce you to Michael Hollinger. When Mickey stepped up the first time to serve his country, he was 21 years old and a member of the U.S. Army 82nd Airborne Division, probably one of the most famous military organizations, units in our armed forces. He was deployed at age 21 in Desert Storm. 30 years later, while he was a student just this last March at our UWSP Wausau campus, studying to complete his Bachelor of Science in Nursing degree, he was already an RN. He left Wisconsin, drove to New York City, knew no one there, had no place to live, but knew that he had to serve again on the front lines. And so he did. I'm pleased to tell you that just yesterday, he completed that tour of duty as well. That's who we are. That's what we do. In this pandemic, I've never been so proud of a group of faculty, staff, students, alumni, and community members. To conclude, let me say that our priority is the health and safety of our students and our employees and our communities while providing an excellent educational experience. Our purpose today, as Mark has explained, is to answer questions. But no, we will not have all of the answers. This is a very fluid situation, so we ask for your flexibility as circumstances change. I've asked Vice Chancellor Al Thompson and Provost Greg Summers to take a few minutes each to summarize some of the answers to the questions most often asked. And then we'll move on to answering individual questions. So let me turn this over to Vice Chancellor Thompson.
Thank you, Bernie. Let me start by first saying, echoing what the Chancellor said, we're excited. We're very excited that you're coming in the fall. We want you to be here. We're looking forward to you being here. But let me give you some key indications about housing. Let me start with that. We are going to allow for the first time that you can not have to live in the hall. We waive the residency requirement. So if you feel unsafe or you feel this is not the environment to be on campus, but you still want to take your classes, we are open to that, and we'll work with you on that. For those students who are looking at single room occupancy, we also will be looking at your underlying conditions. If you have underlying health conditions, we want to be aware of that, and we want to make sure we cater and account to what you need, so you're not in a double occupancy room. We will work with you on that as well. It is our goal to make this home your home. It is our goal to make you feel comfortable while you're at Point. The other part of it is we have beautiful residence halls. We have over 3,400 beds, so we have enough space to put you where you need to be. But working with you individually, we can make it happen. As for dining, I can tell you right now, because of all the state regulations and the guidelines, we will not be able to feed you right in our beautiful DeBoe dining hall. But what we can do in the DeBoe dining hall is green to go. You will bring your green to go server, your plate with you. It will be sanitized every time you need it. We will make sure it's clean. We will make sure that you get all the different variety of wonderful food that we offer at Point. You'll be amazed by the number of items we provide, very type of health provided foods, but most importantly, the selections will not be diminished. We will allow that to happen. All the food stations throughout the campus will be open, but they'll be as you come to go, you'll pick it up and take it to where you need to be. Here's our goal to make sure your safety and your health is #1 priority. So we will do that as well, work with you to make sure your health needs are being met. Let me end by saying this to you because I know we'll have detailed questions about dining and also residential living, so I'll let that happen later. But let me tell you right now, on behalf of this group on the screen, we all look forward to seeing you come. We will do our very best to make this happen for you. And my colleague, Provost Greg Summers, will now take over because he has some wonderful ideas about the classroom setting as well.
All right, well, thank you, Al, and thank you everyone for attending tonight. As you might imagine, our classrooms and teaching and learning experiences are going to look just a little bit different this fall as we adjust to COVID-19, but I can assure you that our faculty and staff have been hard at work preparing for your joining us in the Pointer community this fall, and to make the kinds of adjustments that we need to make sure that your safety and your health are the top priorities for our university as we teach and as we learn. So the fall semester, as I think some of you know from the emails that we've been sending out, is scheduled to begin on schedule on September 2nd. Classes are going to be taught through a mixture of in-person, hybrid, and online formats with as much face-to-face learning as we can, as the health and safety guidelines that we're following will allow. All of our in-person learning experiences will have online alternatives for students. We're going to do this because we know that some students, as Al mentioned, may not feel comfortable living on campus, and some may prefer distance learning. In addition, we know that students and instructors may need at times to quarantine during the semester, and we need to have these distance learning options available if folks aren't able to attend classes in person. We will not be making changes to our regular academic calendar, as some universities have in other parts of the country. State law actually prevents UW campuses from starting classes before September 2nd, so we're unable to do that. The one change that we will make is to move all teaching and learning to an online format after the Thanksgiving holiday and through our January winterim term, as we call it. Thanksgiving we know is a major travel holiday, and this strategy will help to lower the associated risks that come with travel. In addition, given that the flu season usually peaks in late December through January, extending online delivery from Thanksgiving through that January period seems to be a prudent course of action that we have decided to take. Our spring semester, we're hoping, will run just like our fall semester. The classroom environment will require several adjustments. Maintaining the recommended 6 feet of physical distancing will limit our classroom capacity. So classes larger than 50 students will be entirely online. Class sizes will necessarily have to be smaller, and some classes will be divided into groups that are able to meet perhaps once a week instead of the normal 2 or 3 times a week that we would usually have. We're prioritizing for these in-person classes the kinds of learning experiences that we know are difficult to replicate online. This includes laboratory classes, fine and performing arts classes, and the kinds of field experiences that you'll find in some of our natural resource and science classes. It also includes, we're also prioritizing some of our general education and first-year classes for in-person experiences, because we know that these kinds of face-to-face classes are critically important to our entering students as they adjust to college and try to get to know the campus and the community and their classmates. Face coverings will be required of all faculty, staff, and students in our classrooms and other buildings, with the exception of the residence halls. Assigned seats will be mandatory in classrooms, which is a little bit unusual for a university setting, but it will help with contact tracing if we need to do that. And cleaning supplies will be placed in each classroom for incoming students and instructors to clean spaces as one class leaves and another one comes in. All spaces, of course, will be cleaned thoroughly and deeply and regularly by our facilities teams as much as possible. Students, faculty, and staff will be expected also to fill out a daily symptom tracker, and procedures will be in place to follow up on any kinds of positive responses so that we're monitoring our individual health very carefully. I know that there are questions about the kinds of fees that will be associated with our online classes, so I want to mention this very briefly. We normally charge an additional fee beyond our regular tuition for online courses because of the extra technology and the infrastructure that's required in delivering those courses. Since so many of our courses will be online and hybrid in nature and will involve more students than usual, we're working to lower that fee as much as possible. Now, we haven't determined the exact amount yet, but we'll communicate that to students just as soon as possible. And finally, as students register for courses this summer through our STAR registration sessions, they're leaving those sessions with completed course schedules for the fall semester. Adjusting to the COVID environment means that we're going to need to make some changes in those course schedules, not to the courses themselves, but rather to the ways in which they are offered and perhaps how many days a week students are able to meet in person. We're planning to be in touch with all students as early as possible in July with those details so that students will know what to expect and they can plan accordingly. So I think, Mark, that's a good summary of where we are with our academic planning on campus, and I will turn it back to you for some additional questions and answers.
Thank you, Chancellor Patterson, Provost Summers, and Vice Chancellor Thompson for your remarks. At this time, I'm going to open it up to the live questions. Please remember to submit your questions on the Decision Point website that you can find right over my shoulder in my Zoom background. The first question is for Dr. Luce. In the event that a student tests positive for COVID-19, what protocols will be in place to protect other students?
Yes, thank you, Mark, and welcome to everyone who's attending tonight. So as the Director of Student Health, your health and safety is very important to me. That's what I'm here for. That is my job. We are working very hard to try to make arrangements to deal with any COVID positive cases that result on campus. We've actually been working on that since back in late January, early February when the pandemic first began. And so we've been looking into this process and what we would do. In the event that we do have a positive case in a student who lives on campus, we do have arrangements made with our local public health department, Portage County Health and Human Services, to arrange for isolation in the community. They have an isolation facility. So it's very important that when we have a positive case that that individual is isolated, kept away from other residence hall people and other students on campus. So they will be provided for, they will have frequent contacts, twice a day contacts with the Portage County Health Department official, as well as daily check-ins with myself or someone from my staff at Student Health Service. And then usually we make arrangements when they're when the student is in isolation or a person is in isolation, we make arrangements for meals and other things that may come up that they may need during that period of time because we don't want them to leave that space. For individual students who may come in contact with a positive case, they would need to be quarantined. And we have also developed a plan for arranging for a quarantine facility that actually will be on campus in a residence hall that we have made available space for that. And those individual students will also be checked in with regularly from Student Health. We'll check in with them daily to see how they're doing. They'll be given very straightforward instructions about what to watch for in terms of symptoms to monitor for, and we'll make arrangements for them to have meals delivered to their residence hall rooms. They'll be taken care of and have everything that we can do to provide for them in that period of time, but they will be asked to stay in that room as much as possible to limit any potential exposures.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Next question is for Dean Stock. Will their approach be different in Marshfield and Wausau compared to the Stevens Point campus?
Thanks, Mark, for that question. No, we are taking the same approach with all three of our campuses, keeping the same social distancing guidelines, the same requirements, and also the same approaches to supporting students through in-person classes, hybrid classes, and online classes. So we're going to be doing the same thing. So we have a university-wide approach.
Thanks, Dean Stock. Vice Chancellor Thompson, will there be campus employment for students available?
Absolutely. There will definitely be campus employment because we will need support from our various departments to have students working. We pride ourselves in having a number of students working on our campus. Will it be a little bit less than the past? Probably because we won't have as many students on campus on a given day, but there will be still that traffic. So student employment will occur. And what I would recommend if you're looking at student employment is still do the normal process, apply for student work because they'll be out there, and we'll go from there.
Thank you. Mandy, the next question is for you. During the last few months, many students have taken a serious financial hit. If you have already filled out a financial hardship form, but you are an incoming student trying to make a decision on what school to go to, when will you get notified of any possible changes to the proposed financial aid package or offer?
That's a good question. Thank you, Mark. So we made our financial aid appeal form available online, I believe the beginning of April. However, we just started to process them early June. So we have a couple of months that we are currently catching up on now. And given the, unfortunately, the current economic situation, we have seen a large increase from prior years in the amount of forms that we've received. So anybody submitting a financial aid appeal form, probably most recently, can expect probably about 4 weeks before a new financial aid revision could be received. But we're working as quickly as possible. And if you have questions and really need if students really need us to review quickly, they can certainly contact us if that decision is, they need to make that immediately, and we'll do the best we can to move it along.
Thank you, Mandy. Just want to do a quick housekeeping note. Thank you all so much for the questions that are flying in. Continue to use that ask a question button on the Decision Point website. You can find that website right over my shoulder. Provost Summers, the next question is for you. Do you think it would be more effective to attend classes on campus or from home? What are the advantages on campus classes due to the pandemic?
That's a great question, and probably will involve some family conversations, I think, between students and parents. We're obviously working really hard to make sure that students can learn whether they're on campus or whether they choose to learn at a distance. So I think we're gonna try to create parallel tracks that are equally robust and available to students, whatever their preference. Maybe the best way for me to address that question is to let folks know that I am actually the parent of a college student myself. I had a first-year student last year who's now planning to return to her campus as a sophomore. Like a lot of college students across the country, she had to come home abruptly in March, and she was able to successfully complete her semester classes last spring online, but it's not an experience she wants to repeat. She is anxious to go back. Her friends are on her campus. Her faculty are on her campus. She happens to be a college athlete, so she's anxious to get back to her sport and her teammates. And she knows that the experience is going to be different. She knows that it could be disrupted again. She knows that it's not going to be quite the same as the year that she began last year, but she wants to be there. And, I think people are going to have to sit down and really evaluate what their expectations are and what their preferences are and really talk as a family. But we're anxious to have people back. And I think, my own child's experiences and preferences are probably the majority of the opinion from what we know from talking to our students.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that personal story, Provost Summers. Just a quick follow-up question, Provost Summers. How will students be notified which classes are going to be online?
We're going to be communicating directly with students, as I said, as soon as we can, I hope in early to mid-July. So students should have their course schedules largely established by that point if they've been going through the STAR registration sessions. And as I mentioned, we're going to have to be making some adjustments to the modality of delivery, but we're going to be communicating directly with students about what those changes are so they can plan accordingly.
Thank you. Vice Chancellor Thompson, is there any news for sports taking place this upcoming fall?
As of right now, we're on track to have all fall sports. We have been in contact, our athletic director has been in contact with the NCAA Division III there, and also our Wisconsin conference leaders, sister campuses, to see where we are. And as of right now, every indication is that fall season is going to happen. Now, just like Provost Summers said a few minutes ago, we got to go this almost week by week, day by day. And as we move forward through the rest of the summer, I would just ask those athletes to stay in touch, with their coaches in the athletic department, and they will keep you updated.
Thank you. And full disclosure, Vice Chancellor Thompson, I asked that question. That was a personal question for me because I really live for fall sports. So forgive me for taking over there. The next question is for Brian.
I do too. So I would like to see him as well.
Indeed. For Brian in residential living, how will move-in day go? Will times be staggered? Will there be different days for different groups of students?
I hate to say that there's a positive to this virus, but if there's a positive, it's that if you've ever witnessed a college move-in, you're going to be able to miss the controlled chaos that happens. Previously, what we had planned was for move-in for new students or new students was to happen on Saturday, and returning students was supposed to happen on Sunday. Well, that's just not going to be able to happen. And if you've ever seen a move-in day, it is pure chaos. It's a controlled chaos, but it's chaos. We're going to be stretching that out over several days, maybe up to a week's time. We're going to be sending out an email to all the students to set up an appointment with us so we can stagger those times throughout the different residence halls, so we can limit the amount of students that are checking into a residence hall at a time, control the traffic moving into those residence halls, limit the amount of students and family members coming into those residence halls at a certain time, so we can spread out the time that people are in those buildings. And then we also will be controlling when the freshmen will be coming in, as well as when returning students will be coming in as well. So.
Great, thank you, Brian. And just a follow-up question, should students be checking their UWSP email account?
Yes, all of our information will be coming through the UW-Stevens Point email accounts, as well as our information will also be posted on our housing web account as well. So.
Great, thank you. Next question for Dr. Lucy. Will the vaccine be mandated if it is released in the school year?
It's Dr. Luce, but that's okay. Just a quick correction on that one. In terms of the vaccine, so if and when, I guess is how I should put that for the COVID vaccine. So right now there is not a COVID vaccine available, but hopefully the way that the science is progressing is that maybe it'll be available sometime after the beginning of next year. We don't have a lot of data yet on that. So, you know, we'll have to see what there is in terms of availability. In terms of making it a mandatory vaccine, that would be a decision that would come from the Board of Regents, which would be affect the entire UW system. So that won't be a campus decision, from my understanding. I know it's under consideration. Obviously, we would like to protect as many people as possible from getting COVID if they haven't already had it, especially those who are at high risk. But at this time, that has not been a final decision has not been made.
Thank you. Provost Summers, how will music classes work for the fall, specifically choir and singing courses?
So I was just talking with Dean Valerie Sisler, who is the Dean of the College of Fine Arts and Communication, about that very question this morning. Her faculty are working on a variety of alternative teaching practices. Singing, is, if you've been reading the headlines, is obviously an activity that has been associated with some COVID outbreaks. And so people are very concerned about that, but they're talking about, having smaller groups. Certainly individual instruction can be done at a distance, and that's one of the strategies that they will be using. So that would eliminate the risk entirely. But even with group instruction, if they use small groups and they spread out and they put some safety practices in place, they're pretty confident that they can still deliver the kind of quality music instruction that our students are accustomed to.
Thank you. This next question is for Brian in residential living. What kind of social opportunities will there be in the residence halls and on campus?
We have a hall director committee right now working on a new programming format. So there'll be both social programming happening, as well as some web-based programming that will be occurring, both in the residence hall, small groups that will be getting together, as well as some activities that will be occurring outside of the halls where they can still do larger gatherings. There's also our hall leadership teams, which I would highly encourage. That is open to any student in the halls can get involved in. There are some exec positions that are open. Those are open to anybody that lives in the residence halls. There are resident assistants that are on every floor that will be around to help the students get to know each other, get them involved as well as hall directors that are in every building as well that will be doing programming and getting students involved as well. So there's plenty of opportunities going on in the halls trying to get the students involved and still getting to know each other. You just have to be careful with the social distancing at the same time. So.
Thank you, Brian. Dean Stock, this question is for you. We live in Wausau, and my student will be a freshman who is currently enrolled in classes on the Stevens Point campus. He is thinking of trying to switch to the Wausau campus, but some of the classes are not available. Will students be able to take classes at multiple campuses if the schedules work?
We can certainly work one-on-one with each student to find a solution that works for them. Generally, a student who is at one of our Marshfield or Wausau campuses takes all of their courses and the majority of their courses on that campus, but we certainly would be interested in talking to that student to find some options that work for him.
Great, thank you. Provost Summers, there was a question to clarify the pricing for the online course, and we know that you're still working on a final, but could you give just a point of reference as to what the fee was last year, just for a point of reference?
Yeah, the fee for our distance education is $50 per credit, and that has typically applied to our online classes. And we know that, given the disruptions that the pandemic has caused, we've had a lot more students taking advantage of those online classes, and a large percentage of our classes will actually be hybrid in nature. So we're looking to significantly lower that fee and spread it out across a larger group of our students without, trying to generate any more revenue as an institution. That's not the point. We're trying to make costs more reasonable for students and just to adjust to the reality that the pandemic has caused. So again, we're working with the UW system actually to try and figure out what the appropriate fee level is. And I can tell you it will probably be significantly lower, but I just don't have the exact amount yet. And we will certainly communicate that with our students just as soon as we know it.
Thank you. Dr. Luce, there we go. Will parents be allowed to come and take their student home if they have been quarantined?
Yes, always that's an option. There's no restriction on that. If the student lives in a different county, the only thing that we ask in the public, this actually is from the public health department, is that they would then inform the public health department in the county in which they live, so that that county's public health department could take over monitoring of that quarantine or isolation period. Could also go home for isolation. Good question.
Thank you, Dr. Lewis. Mandy, this question is for you. Will students be provided an updated financial aid offer if they decide not to live on campus?
That is a good question too. Thanks, Mark. So the cost of attendance budgets for financial aid purposes are really just based off the question that how the student filled out the FAFSA. So on the FAFSA, the student can list, whether or not they're going to live on campus, off campus, or with a parent. So unless a student goes and changes their application, or for some reason, we're talking with the student and they let us know that they'll be living off campus, or with their parent, then a cost of attendance budget won't be performed, because we wouldn't know. We can't assume that students are just who decide not to live on campus are going to be living with the parents. So it's only if the students reside with their parents where they don't receive an allowance for housing. And so again, unless they change the question on the FAFSA and we receive an updated application, or they contact us directly, we wouldn't be changing the budgets.
Thank you, Mandy. And it looks like I received a question. Can students still apply to be a student ambassador if we're just taking classes online, you bet. We are continuing with virtual campus tours, and we're always looking to reach students both in person and virtually. So we welcome that, and we're always looking for the best and brightest. Next question is for Al Thompson. When do our meal plans become available?
They become available. It depends on when, if they're athletes and we have a preseason athletic camps, which will be around the second week of August, they would become available then. If you're talking from the sense of coming back on move-in, we will pretty much target the same time the housing is talking about moving in. So if it's staggered 4 or 5 days prior to that Saturday, that weekend, bill plan will start at the same time as move-in begins. So we will make sure people aren't hungry. We're going to make sure the meal operations begin the same time.
Great, Al, thank you. Provost Summers, some UW campuses are not opening their laboratories. Are you keeping laboratory classes open this fall?
Yes, I sure hope so. The laboratories, as I mentioned before, are those kind of high impact, highly engaging learning experiences that we know our students depend on, and those there are substitutes that we can deliver online if students really need it, but we know that the preference of students and faculty alike are to deliver those courses in person and those experiences in person, so that students get that hands-on practice with whatever the learning activity is. So. We're absolutely looking to again manage them safely. They'll have smaller class sizes, and there'll be some staggered experiences to make sure that we're practicing that safe physical distancing. But we absolutely hope to have those available in person as much as we can.
Thank you. This next question I'm going to field. Will we be able to go to campus in July or August and see a residence hall room or walk around campus? You bet. The admissions and recruitment office are just going to be coming out with a plan for on-campus events. They will be single family campus tours. And so please reach out to our office to schedule a visit for campus. Dean Stock, how will services from disability centers be handled if a class is online? How can the student receive help?
Certainly. A student can receive help in the same way that they can receive help now. We help a student regardless of class modality. So if your class is face-to-face, if you want to attend online, or if your class is fully online, you contact the Disability Services Office. Our colleagues there will give an evaluation of your requests and your condition, and then work with the faculty members to find an accommodation that works for you. So whatever your need is, please reach out. We are very happy to help you no matter what your situation is.
Thank you. Brian, what will life in the residence halls look like? Will they be able to go into residence hall rooms and hang out with one another and visit other floors?
Yes, students will be able to wander around. We're still looking at what our policies will be. We're looking at if you're going to someone else's rooms, should you be wearing a mask and those type of things. But yes, you'll still be able to wander around your residence hall that you are living in. There will be no restrictions. You're not stuck in your room. You'll be able to tour your own residence hall, yes.
I just want to add that we would be looking at policies or procedures on the keyword is congregating. So if students are in groups beyond their roommate, we will be looking at options on face masks for congregated groups. But Brian can speak to about the furniture being removed from the various places in the building.
There is the recommendation that we've gotten from a couple of different national organizations that we do remove the furniture from public locations. So people don't congregate in the lobby or down in the basement. So we don't get large gatherings hanging out there. So we are going to be removing the furniture from our public locations, so we don't have the large gatherings occurring. So that is occurring. But again, we still are going to be able to have the small gatherings occurring in student rooms.
Thank you both. Vice Chancellor Thompson, how will clubs operate in the fall with social distancing?
We will be operating pretty much in a virtual world. A lot of virtual meeting rooms will be set up. Groups that are less than 50, depending on where we are at that point in the fall, if we can have less than 50 people gathering, some of the student orgs might meet face-to-face, but mainly a lot of what CASE or Campus Activities is working on is virtual room settings, so that whatever organization you belong to, you have a virtual room organization that you can meet. So we're going to do it both ways, a hybrid model where some will be face-to-face and some will be virtual, but we got to have best practices each way.
Thank you. Dean Stock, will the library and other study areas still be open for students to use?
Yes, we will still have portions of Albertson Hall open and available for student use. Much like some of these other conversations, we are removing enough furniture so that people can remain socially distant. We'll have, for example, our study rooms won't be for groups anymore. They'll be for single people. We'll provide the same kinds of sanitation supplies like wipes and hand sanitizer for folks to utilize. The biggest change for Albertson Hall is that we're really encouraging everyone to take the stairs, even if you're heading up to the 6th floor, if you don't have to take the elevator. Elevators are one of the places we want people to be extra careful. So get your steps in and use some of those spaces in the upper floors in order to find a nice quiet place to study.
Appreciate that, Dean Stock, and the encouragement to get those steps in.
I'm like, I don't know.
I can do it, guys. So can you.
Okay.
Let's go, Al. High knees up those stairs. Brian, the next question is for you. How do students sign up for a loft in their room, and where do students rent lofts from?
On our webpage, if you go to on our webpage, on the right side of our webpage, it talks about fall 2020 move-in, and you go to that link on the right side and you click that, and you'll find loft move-in, and you click in the loft. And the recommendation is you click that loft and you sign up for your loft by August 1st. It's a very simple process, but you need to sign up by August 1st. And why I say August 1st is, and I can't say August 1st enough, August 1st, is if you sign up by August 1st, your loft will be delivered for you in your room. In the past, it's been the football team. This is not official yet, not sure it'll be the football team or the company, but we are working on that. We're not sure which one it'll be, but it will be delivered to your room when you show up. Your loft will be sitting for you in your room waiting for you. If you sign up after August 1st, though, then you have to go to a semi-trailer and pick it up yourself when you move in. But the site is right there on our webpage under the fall 2020 move in. You click on the loft, you sign up. It's really simple. Sign up by August 1st, and it'll be sitting there waiting for you in your room when you move in.
Ryan, let me add for the parents here. I've helped students carry those lofts up to the 4th floor of our residence halls. You definitely don't want to miss that deadline.
And I've watched Bernie do it and cheered him on from the 1st floor. Brian, just a clarifying question. You said August 1st, correct?
August 1st.
Sounds good. Thank you. And just a follow-up question, Brian, when are students assigned a roommate?
This one may take a little bit longer to explain, because this is, if it weren't for the COVID, this might be the biggest news of the summer, at least for residential living. We have this new process where incoming students are actually going to be able to select their own room for the first time ever. It used to be where we had a computer program that used to assign all the students their own room, and then we would always get complaints about what hall they got assigned and all that stuff. Here in the next week or two, all students who have signed up for STAR and have signed a housing contract will be getting an email from us in their university email account telling them to go and sign up for their room. So they'll actually get to pick what room they're going to be able to live in. So when you sign up for your room, you're actually going to be able to pick your room and roommate. So you'll know who your roommate is most likely by the end of June. If you have a room that doesn't have a roommate, you can go on throughout the whole month of July and keep going back to see who your roommate is. If you don't, you'll be emailed by the end of July, early August, who your roommate is. You'll be emailed no matter what, but you'll be able to select your own room and your own roommate for the first time ever. If you don't know who that is, like I said, you will be getting another email from us late July, early August with that information. But here in the next couple of weeks, at the latest, end of June, you'll be getting information from us on how to go ahead and select your room and even your own roommate. So.
Great, thank you for that. Vice Chancellor Thompson, will the dining prices be reduced because no live classes after Thanksgiving?
We are working on that very thing of how much the reduction would be. We will also need to probably a refund that will come back in some form after Thanksgiving, because some students, based on technology, they might still need to be on campus because of needing the different internet connections, or because of wanting to stay because of home security, staying on campus. But most of our students who go home after Thanksgiving, we will be working on housing and dining refunds based on when they leave. And that information will be forthcoming later in the summer once I sit down with business affairs.
Thank you. Provost Summers, there's typically a grace period for adding and dropping classes. During this pandemic, if the student finds that their experience isn't going to be what they thought it was due to having online classes, will they have to continue with those face-to-face classes, or will there be more of a grace period for adding and dropping?
So last spring, our faculty did extend, and our shared governance system did extend the add-drop period for classes, and also allowed students much greater flexibility in our grading policy. So if they wanted to take the class pass-fail, they had right up until the very end of the semester to make that decision. And I'm pretty confident that we'll be extending as much of that flexibility as we can for students in the fall semester. But again, the hope that we have is to create those parallel paths and as much flexibility in our courses so that students can jump in and out of the in-person and the online experience depending on what their own circumstances are and what obviously our health circumstances are as a community.
Thank you. And Provost Summers, coming right back at you with another question. My child is coming to your campus from out of state, and their major is conservation law enforcement. Will it be worth it for her to come?
Oh, absolutely. We have one of the most impressive colleges of natural resources in the country. Our conservation law enforcement program is one of the strongest that I'm aware of, not just in the state, but across the country. And we have a gem of a college, a gem of a program, and this program will absolutely be worth it. And I would just add that a lot of those in-person field experience kinds of courses where students are learning by doing, a lot of those are in the College of Natural Resources. They pride themselves on delivering that kind of learning experience. So short answer, yes.
Thank you. Doctor, I'm coming to you. Will there be sufficient and regular flu shots available for students?
Yes, I can guarantee that. Our order is in. I believe the last time I checked, I think the shipping date is supposed to be early September. So as soon as we have them available in student health, then we start promoting on campus. Important to check your university email because there will be a message of the day. We send out messages of the day consistently for about a week or so after we have them available, and then we'll have lots of other methods of trying to make students aware, but they can always call student health as well if they want more information, if they're not sure if maybe they heard that it was available or not. We will take any phone calls as well and let them know. But we will highly, highly encourage students and everyone else on campus as well, but we would provide the students with the flu shot. So please do consider that.
And Mark, I just want to add what Helen just said, is that we also will send a direct message to students' email accounts per student, but regarding the flu shot as well.
Great, thank you. Vice Chancellor Thompson and Brian, this is a toss-up for whoever is eager enough to answer it. If a student winds up with a double room and they are alone, will they be charged extra?
I can say that. I can answer that one real quick.
You said what?
I'll take that one. That's real easy.
Thank you.
The answer is no. We offer the simple answer is no. We do offer to them as a single at a certain point. And if they take it as if they don't take it as a single, there's always a chance it could be assigned a roommate at some point. And they say no, they are not charged the single rate. But if they want to pay the additional cost for the single, then they would get paid. They would get charged that additional charge. But the simple answer is no. They are not charged an additional charge if they don't want to pay the additional charge.
Thank you. Mandy, this next question is for you. Are there still scholarships available?
So the scholarship for new incoming students priority date is May 15th or November 15th each year. And I know that currently our scholarship coordinator, as students, so all of the scholarships had been awarded, but as, if students who maybe received a scholarship do choose to not attend UWSP, those scholarships are being kind of returned to the pool and then re-awarded out to anybody that may be in the waiting list. So is there a possibility that you can get a scholarship this late? Absolutely. But it just depends on the students who maybe receive them and if they choose not to attend.
Great, thank you. And I did just hear via the chat that Dr. Al Thompson was willing to give up part of his salary for some scholarships. So thank you so much, Dr. Al Thompson, for that generous offer.
Why don't you name the person so I can talk to him privately?
You bet. Al, this next question is for you. Can students stay in the residence halls for Thanksgiving and beyond?
Well, I think that brings up the question of we'd rather prefer people go home, especially after we end the face-to-face. But I know there'll be students who will say because they're on athletic teams or they need to stay because of technology issues, or simply just needing because this is where they need to be. We did that during the spring semester when this hit, and we had about 160, 170 students stay. So I'm not going to say outright today, no, you got to go home. Yes, you have to go home, but we would do it by case. Most of the students, though, I think they should go home after by Thanksgiving for their own safety and also to be home, but we will work with each case.
Great, thank you. And we're approaching the 6 o'clock mark, so I'll ask this question. It came in pretty early. It's directed at Chancellor Patterson, and if we have time, then I'll ask the rest of the group to respond. I've saved the toughest one for last. Chancellor, if you could go back to your freshman year of college, what would you do differently and what would you do the same?
Oh, Mark, I don't think we have enough time for me to answer that. And if my mom was still around, she would have probably a different answer. But one of the things I would do differently is to work less. I had a full-time job and sometimes worked 50 hours a week. And it certainly impacted my ability to perform like I should have. If you were to look at my undergraduate transcript and you look at the 2 years before I was in the Army and the 2 years afterwards, it would look like a Jekyll and Hyde situation. It was night and day. But the one thing that I would do the same is to persevere, to never, ever give up. Winston Churchill got it right when he said, never, ever give up. And so that's what I'd want to say to our students. And that's what I've said to my students all the years I was in the classroom. You can do much more than you ever think you can. And stick with it, walk across that stage 4 years from now and celebrate.
Thank you, Chancellor. Looks like we have a few more minutes. I'll go around the horn. Brian, what would your advice be?
I hate to admit this, but it's very similar to Bernie's. The one thing I would say is don't work too much. I'll be the first one to tell you, I actually ended on academic probation my first semester because I was working 40 hours a week as well and didn't put the time into my academics. And it taught me a major lesson and it really straightened me out. And it was my learning lesson to put the time into my academics and really straighten me out. It scared the living you-know-what out of me, and it really helped propel me. So put that time and effort into your academics and not so much into your work, outside work. The other thing that ironically, just about a week ago, all the friendships that I made in my first year, or even the first couple of years of living in the residence halls, I just had a Zoom meeting with all my friends that I made over 30 years ago. We just all caught up, and all those friendships that I made. That was well before I ever realized I was going to make a career in residential living. I'm still friends with all those people that I was friends with over 30 years ago. We're still all talking, and we're all over the world. I was talking to one person from Ethiopia, another friend in Spain. We're all over the world. So just the friends that you get to make during my freshman year, we're still all talking. So some of the great memories you get to make going to campus, living on campus.
That's fantastic advice, Brian. Thank you. Provost Summers?
So this is the wrong answer for a faculty member and a provost of a university, but I'd spend a lot less time on classes. I was a double major and had a couple of minors and worked a lot on classes, and college is a big experience, but it's big and important both in the classroom and out. And I think students need to take full advantage of that campus community. And you know, Stephen's Point is a beautiful community, and I would hope that our students coming to town really get to know the region and the people of the community, because it's a gorgeous place to live and it's a fabulous place to explore. And I would encourage our students to do that in addition to graduating in 4 years.
Thank you, Provost Summers. I'm glad you circled back towards the end of that question with the graduating 4 years. Didn't expect that answer from you. Dean Stock?
So I would say the one thing that I regretted is I didn't ask for help early enough. It will surprise no one here that I thought I knew a whole lot about what I wanted to do and what was going on and had it figured out, and I didn't. And I needed help adjusting to college. I needed help being far away from home. I didn't have a car. It was 4.5 hours away. My parents couldn't come and see me. So adjusting to that college experience for me was really hard. So when I finally did ask for help, I got it, and I found friends and found community, and it was really fantastic. But there are so many people on this campus, faculty, staff, employees, people who just work in random locations who you run into on campus, who they all want to help you, and they all want to get you to the right person. So please don't hesitate to ask. I'm also an alum, so I had that experience here when I graduated or when I was a student. So trust me, it's the same experience now. We all still want to help you just as much as all of my faculty and staff support friends helped me when I was a student. So ask for help. It's worth it.
Agree. Great advice. Vice Chancellor Thompson?
I would say the one thing I should have done more of that I didn't do enough of was heed the advice of faculty and advisors. I should have spent more time hearing what they were saying, especially as a first generation college student. I really should have just been listening more, because I think my first year would have been a lot better off in academics. And I think the part where I'm with Brian on, the part that I'm really glad I have, is people that I came through with college in my undergraduate years. To this very day, we're still lifelong friends. We still stay in touch. We've been in touch through the COVID-19. We've been in talks with the racial issues in the country. And we're talking people who are from rural Iowa, lived on the farm or live in rural Iowa all their life, to people that live in urban Chicago. It's just amazing that, you know, one thing I would say to the students, you're going to make friends forever. It's not friends for 3 years or 4 years or even 8 years. You're going to make friends at Point forever. And I think that's the most important thing. But manage your time is the critical part. Managing your time is everything.
It sure is. Thank you for that advice. Mandy?
Apply for financial aid. So as a first generation college student myself, I did work a lot, just like Bernie and others, and I ended up joining the Army. I didn't know that there was financial aid available. I didn't apply, so I worked a lot, and I mean, I did, you know, get a good benefit with joining the Army, but apply for financial aid, because even if you don't think that you're going to be eligible for grants or scholarships, there are loans available. And, you know, if you don't want to work as hard at a job and you need more time to study your academics or get involved in campus, you know, there are additional assistance available for you in order for you to get all the opportunities available. So apply for financial aid.
So eloquently stated from the Director of Financial Aid and Scholarships. Doctor, bring us home.
Okay, so I'm going to have some big eloquent thing here. So, but I agree with so many people and what they've already said. But I was thinking back to my experience, and I think, Dean Stock, I actually went to a college that was several hours away from where I grew up, and I didn't have a car. I actually knew no one that was going to that school, or that had gone to that school, or anyone in that even community. So, but I actually wanted that. I wanted to have that new life experience, and I think that is really important too. If you go into it wanting to have new experiences, meet new people, and have a very open attitude, just what can I learn? Who can I meet? What can I learn from those new people that I meet? And then get involved. There's so many different opportunities. When I was a first year in my college, like I was in the band and I was in all different organizations on campus, and I know it's going to look different this fall because of COVID. We won't have quite as many opportunities to gather in large groups, but there's still going to be opportunities to be involved and to get to know new people, to make friends, just like several of the other people on this panel, friends that I went to college with. We still do the Zoom meetings too. I have a group of 8 women that are probably the closest friends I have in my life, and they're women I met in college. So just such an amazing opportunity. And I guess even though this is a scary time with the pandemic, try not to let that be overwhelming, and try to still kind of focus on the positive things and the reasons that you wanted to go to college in the first place, because those things are still here, and we're going to do our best to try to make those available to you.
Thank you so much. Such sound advice from a knowledgeable group of folks. So thank you all so much. And thank you to our students and parents for joining us in today's discussion. We will be sending out a video link to those who requested, and we'll be following up with questions that may not have been answered in today's session. Also, if you have not registered for STAR, which is our orientation session, my team would love to get you connected into a session this month. As always, thank you for your interest in our campus, and we are so excited to see you in the fall. I want to end with a special video in which we hope we will show you how to discover your purpose at UW-Stevens Point. Thank you and have a good evening.
We are here for a purpose. Some arrive knowing it. Others are still searching for it. But this we share. The determination to create the future we were meant for. Motivating and encouraging each other to work harder, reach higher, and be who we are meant to be. We are the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point, where challenges don't hold us back. They invigorate us, and we will always rise to meet them. For a better future, a better Midwest, and a better world. Discover your purpose.